watching The Illusionist Interrogations in episode 9, starring Jeff McBride.
Welcome to the Illusionist Interrogation Show. My name is the Travesty, and today we're going to be talking a bit about our next guest. He's a magician, but so much more. He's an innovator, consultant, and legend in the art of magic. He has performed at Radio City Music Hall and made countless TV appearances. His mask act is actually a big reason I myself got into magic. He has been named Magician of the Year by Hollywood's famed Magic Castle. He is a Las Vegas headliner and creator of the Magic and Mystery School. Please put your hands together for the Master of Masks, Jeff McBride.
And we are here.
Awesome. How are you doing? How's the pandemic treating you?
This is a wild time in Las Vegas. Things are opening back up. The vaccine is here now. Light at the end of the tunnel. People are happy. I'm getting booked, actually, taking some bookings on contingency, socially distanced for the fall, which is good.
Nice.
And spending a lot of time helping students from around the world here on the internet, doing Zoom classes and doing Mystery School Monday, which is our free class. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and that keeps me very engaged and very productive. And then we have our new members show called Wisdom Wednesday, and a full slate of classes at the school. So it's the pandemic time brought everybody online, and magicians were looking for a place to come and kind of find out what's going on. I mean, it's some sanity. So we opened our classes up for free to the world, and we decided to keep that policy. And we have every Monday night we have a class for people to go to. So this age we're living in is, of course, put an end to the old ways and forced us to create some new ways to come together. Because I don't think I would have even have met you unless I think we connected at David Sandy's Collectors on the weekend. And that's where I got to know you, and you show up in various magic communities. So this has brought people together as much as it's kept them apart.
Yeah, I kind of think that it brought people together more in the magic community, that is. I don't know about outside.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Do you do very many shows? I mean, obviously you do like the mystery school and all that, but do you do very many shows to like actual lay people? Are you still doing that?
Yes, we do shows. We do private events. We do corporate events. I do a lot of lectures. You know, that's still in the magic community.
Oh yeah.
But it's right now, Zoom is here to stay. So we've been teaching people here at the Mystery School. Paul Draper has a class. We've had a class, succeeding in magic on Zoom, and we have helped magicians set up their Zoom studios, learn what magic effects really work. And many people thought, we can't touch anything. We can't. There's all these limitations. Well, these limitations have forced creativity, and there are many more magicians innovating magic that works perfectly interactive over Zoom, and even a lot of mentalism. And we've been teaching that. And we also teach how to market your show. See, that's the big key. You can set up the show. You can have a great show, but if people aren't coming, that's the real secret, is how do you get people to the show? So we've been helping people with that. So we've been in kind of triage mode here. Our students from all over the world that come to the Mystery School, many of them are full-time pros, and it's about half pros and half people that what I would call pro-am, that are, that have other businesses or other occupations, but they take their magic very, very professionally. So we have a wide range of people that we've been servicing in the last year or so.
Okay. On a completely unrelated note, if you were not in magic, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't in magic, I would probably be a professional ski instructor. I love skiing. Really. I love the outdoors. Or probably a percussionist. I started even before magic. That's how I found magic, was playing percussion. It's how I met my wife, Abigail, playing percussion. So percussion and music and being in the outdoors.
That's interesting. Now, let's rewind. We'll go all the way back to your childhood. What got you into magic?
I just said it, drumming, music.
Oh, well, yeah.
And right next to the books on music were magic books. and I took out the Golden Book of Magic by the great Merlini, and now I fell in love with magic, and that was about 7, 8 years old.
I
And
thought
ever
this was the
since
Golden
then,
Book of Magic.
that's the show doctor. Yeah, that is my version of the Golden Book of Magic. And the Golden Book of Magic, I go back to it again and again and again, and I'm actually designing a show based around the routines in the book. And it's interestingly enough, the first book that I ever saw, there where the illustrations in the book are of children, like, pre-teenagers, adolescent kids. And one of them is dressed up in an Asian outfit. And I guess that kind of stuck.
Who would have been the first magician you would have saw live?
Well, I guess I would see, the first magician I saw live was probably a kind of a magic clown that came to school. But the first magic show I really remember making an impact on me was seeing Ricciardi in 1970, I believe, at the Felt Forum in Madison Square Garden. There was a theater, and it was called the World Festival of Witchcraft and the Occult. That was the name of the show. Didn't say magic in the title. And they had a disclaimer in the commercial that some scenes in the show may be too graphic and violent, parental warning and all that stuff, because he did the buzzsaw, which was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw my first card manipulator, Colin Rose, from England, do his Fantasy in Flame, where he produced card fan after card fan after card fan. And I was into magic for a couple of years then, and I knew that he had a conveyor belt up his sleeve that was delivering these cards because he didn't have his sleeves rolled up. So when you see me do card manipulation, I always roll up my sleeves before I go into my split fan sequence for that young Jeff McBride in the audience. So, and I got Lance Burton to roll up his sleeves in his show too.
Nice.
Right before he does the candles, Yes. Yeah. So that was my first magic show, and I remember it clearly. There was, of course, the manipulator, Fantasy and Flame, Colin Rose. There was a guy named Yogi Rayo who put a meat hook through his tongue, and on a chain he dragged a fire extinguisher. There was a woman named Madeline who did Astrosphere, floating ball. Bobby Baxter came out and did his comedy act. And then there was Omar Pasha, the great blacklight act. And I knew that something was fishy because it looked weird, because it was the first time I'd ever saw a blacklight act. And I'd later worked with a version, the new owners of the Omar Pasha act all over the world. So it's interesting I got to work with them. And then the great Ricciardi, absolutely astonishing, absolutely incredible magician with great style, panache, and showmanship. And that really stuck with me.
Now, what would have been a trick that you saw as a kid? I mean, you kind of answered. And what is something that recently has had a big impact on you?
Well, card manipulation was the first thing I saw, and that made an impact on me. And I think I've been able to pass that gift along, because many people saw me for their first magician on the world's greatest magic do my split fans and my card act at Caesar's Palace, and that's why I become a magician. I have many students that have told me that, so I know that got passed on. Recently for me, the things that really impress me is beautiful storytelling magic, where it's more than just visual eye candy. Part of our mission at Mystery School is transforming eye candy into soul food. Tricks are great, and if you want to go to TikTok, you can see the color-changing flap card of the day. I mean, there's lots of magic coming at you. Here's a card, now it's a wristwatch. What's next? There's the eye candy of magic, which is very necessary. But what is this about? What Eugene Berger said, what do you want your magic to be? Do you want it to be just a trick of the week from an online magic shop thrown on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram? Is that what it's going to be? Or is your magic going to be a little bit more meaningful? And there's, as Eugene said, there's many rooms in the House of Magic. There's a lot of people over there working on TikTok and doing that kind of eye candy magic. And then there's, our folks over at the Mystery School. We have spend a lot more time talking about movement theater, music, creating scripts, creating meaningful presentations, because there's drinking audiences and there's thinking audiences. And I entertain both. And I work in Atlantic City, which is some of the drunkest, out of control party audiences in the world. And I get paid extraordinary sums of money to reward the overprivileged for their bad behavior. At the same time, I'm also working in theaters, and I'm working in performance venues where there's thinking audiences. So I'm drawn to performers like Renee Lavande. I'm drawn to performers like Eugene Berger. I'm drawn to performers like Darren Brown and Max Maven, and thoughtful, reflective performers. Joshua Jay comes to mind as a performer that really puts a lot of meaning and content into his magic as well.
All right. As a kid, who do you think maybe were your three biggest influences?
Oh, Richard Ross, Jeff Sheridan, and Alice Cooper.
Okay.
Really, smooth style, great technique, and flamboyant theatrics.
And what's great is Alice Cooper, he actually does magic in his tours.
Yes, he did. And I toured as his opening act. I was his opening act. Oh, yeah, that was
I didn't
great.
even know that.
Oh, yes.
That's cool.
I did a lot of opening act work for a lot of opening acts, but that was a great thrill. I got, when I was in, junior high school and high school, I was memorizing George Carlin albums, the boss hits from the boss town that my boss wants me to take, the stacks of wax for all you Jills and Jacks, WINO, wonderful wino. That was like from middle school. I had memorized George Carlin albums, and then not a couple of years later, but later on, I'm his opening act in Atlantic City.
Wow.
I'm dying to be, wanting to go to Nassau Coliseum when I was a teenager to see Alice Cooper, and then 10 years later, I'm his opening act. How cool is that? Magic can really take you places if you're dedicated to it. And maybe there's somebody out there that is listening to this right now that's ready to take the next step. And, we're here at the Mystery School to help you do that.
And I'll link the Mystery School links down below, and hopefully
McBride Magic and Mystery School. You'll find it. And we know that people don't have a whole lot of money, especially now, so we have a lot of free programming. And we have scholarships for our classes and stipends to make it affordable for people to come. In the last few years, we've given out over $100,000 to students to pay for their classes. People go, oh, I can't fly to Vegas. Oh, I can't go to a hotel and take these classes in Vegas. Well, now you can join us online and take these classes. All you got to do is click a URL and sign up for one of our scholarships.
That's great.
Because we have a scholarship page. Just go there and look for McBride's Magic and Mystery School scholarships. You'll find it.
All right. And for those beginners watching at home, what would be something that you would recommend for them to focus on when they start?
Well, a lot of people cop out and they go, they're visual learners. And they just will go with the DVD or the download. And there's so much more in the magic books. Learn how to read a magic book. It's an incredible experience. And learn and dive into the literature. There's so much great magic that's available on literature, but people will just stay on the surface and just kind of stay on the surface and watch what's on YouTube. And what's on YouTube is there's some good stuff on YouTube, but the rampant exposure, I think, on YouTube is really kind of nauseating to me. So we have all of our teachings behind a firewall. But we have a lot of our stuff that's available for free, but you have to come to our site. It's not on YouTube. We don't put it out on Facebook. We're not exposing magic on TikTok. You have to be a little bit serious. So there's a little bit of a filter before you get to the good stuff. And then the really good stuff is hidden in books. So if you want to learn some great magic, get some great magic books. And there's a lot of public domain magic books that you can get for free on the internet if you just look around.
All right. If someone wanted to become, let's say, a stage magician, what would you recommend a beginner to get into?
Well, I would have a beginner be able to perform 3 effects: an opener, a middler, and a closer. Something visual to catch attention, a middle routine that tells the people a little bit about themselves, and then something stunning that is a quick closer for a close-up set or a parlor set. and learn how to work in close-up without gaffes, because people, well, less grabby these days because of the pandemic, but people are in social space. When you're sharing social space, there's a status kind of equaling, so people feel, oh, give me the deck, especially when you're starting. And when you're starting, you don't want to use a lot of gaffed decks. You don't want to use a lot of gaffed props, because people will kind of challenge you, and you can just lay down the stuff and they can examine the props. So if you want to be a stage performer, the best thing you can do is perform as much as you can and learn how to entertain and listen to the audience and watch the audience and listen to what they like. Watch good examples of performers that can perform in close-up, parlor, and stand-up positions. And also work on magic that's scalable. What I mean is that if you learn the script for a 3-card Monty, you can do 3-card Monty close up. You can also do it on platform, and if you get big cards, you can do it on stage. So work on magic that's scalable. Work with little linking rings, which will let you work with bigger rings, and then on stage. Now, a little bit of this status is changing because of the proliferation and the commonality of video and video screens, even in stage performance venues. So a person like Shin Lim, who is primarily a close-up performer, can now perform in larger spaces because people have now, in the last few years, accepted the screen as just a part of the theatrical device. 20 years ago, if you put a video on stage, people would kind of grumble. They'd say, why are we watching a video in a stage? Why can't they do bigger stuff? Why? But now people get, about 98% of their entertainment through a phone. So they're used to watching small visuals all the time. So when they see a big screen on the stage, well, that's a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's kind of an equalizer now. It's an interesting time that close-up magic is the new stage magic.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yes, it is. But there will come a time when that screen will go out, or there won't be screens, or you won't have the iMag. What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
And a lot of people are growing up performing their magic for the camera. And when they get out into the real world, they're going to have 3/4 angles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a wake-up call too. So there's two primarily, I think, different aesthetics in magic right now. There's the online cam magician, and then there's a person that can work in the real world, and then there's hybrid people like me. I've been streaming online, teaching magic on a weekly basis for 10 years. Yeah. We used to use live stream, and we've been using Zoom for 2 years. Everybody's kind of like new to the party, but we've been doing it a really long time, doing live, close-up, parlor, stage, and also interactive on Zoom.
Yeah. What do you think would be the hardest thing that you ever had to learn in magic?
Well, the hardest thing I have to learn in magic is probably memorizing scripts. Memorizing scripts is challenging, and it takes a lot of work to do it, but I'm willing to put the work in. Why? Because a good script separates an okay performer from a great performer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, new magicians, young magicians, go, I want to be organic. I don't want to sound scripted. Well, wake up. When you go to a movie or watch a television series, these people it's called acting, and it doesn't sound like they're scripted, does it? No, because they have their lines down and they've rehearsed and they've cut it together and it looks great. So a lot of people are okay on video, but when it comes to live, they fall down because they don't have their scripts, and they're, what I'd like you to do is do me a favor, and could you do me a favor, and what I'd like you to do is, and then they don't have a script, so there's nothing, they don't have anything interesting to say, so they just rely on the trick and their kind of jokey personality to get themselves over. When you see a master like Eugene Berger, when you see a master like Darren Brown, they have a script.
Yeah.
And that is why they are, the leaders in their field and the leaders in history. That's why David Copperfield is a storyteller. He has a narrative. He's reading off a script, but it doesn't sound like it. It just sounds like he's coming from his heart.
Yeah. So what would you say the most difficult act you've ever performed is?
Well, I've had things that were very dangerous when I was on ABC's Champions of Magic. I had to do a burned alive stunt, and that was real fire, and it was really dangerous. And it took about a year to get that stunt escape approved by the fire department that I could even perform it. I had to go take the entire apparatus and a film crew and go to the Las Vegas fire department and put it up in their, where they have a building where they rehearse putting out fires. It's this building that they've set on fire and they rehearse there. I set it up right next to that building, and they had to, like, all the fire people had to sign off on this. I just didn't go like onto the beach and build a bonfire. I mean, we had to get this thing on television, and it had to be like OSHA approved, and it had to be like, safety approved, and fire department had to sign off of it. And it was, it was dangerous, but still it was a calculated risk. I mean, some of the stuff that David Blaine does, I wouldn't want to do. But in order to get on TV, sometimes you have to do, ridiculously daring things to be able to get the contract. And I was willing to take that risk.
When a camera hits you, that changes you.
Oh, yeah.
What's something you did as an amateur that you would never do now?
What's something I did as a... Well, I always acted like I always imagined I was professional. So I didn't ever really do anything that I didn't think was in line with being a professional. So, maybe I dress better now, off stage as well as on stage. There was a time where I would wear a costume on stage, but off stage I would just wear a t-shirt and jeans. And I stopped doing that. I kind of have an on-stage costume and off-stage fashion, because I'd rather stand out in the crowd than be lost in it.
There's nothing in your act that I would say personally that could be really almost improved. But is there something that you think that you could work on?
Yeah, I've been working on a routine since I was 15, 16 years old. From Erdonase, from Expert at the Card Table. And I've been working on it and working on it and working on it since I was 16. And it's scripted. And I knew the script when I was 16. And I'm working on it and working on it. And I just am getting it ready to put in my new show, Magic Quest, my new Zoom show, which will be opening in March. So, yeah, I've been working on something since I was 16. I'm 61.
Yeah. That better be a good act.
Oh, yeah.
So, along the way, I'm sure you've had a lot of people that helped mentor, or you've learned from books and websites or whatever. What would you think has helped you the most?
Not learning from websites.
Well.
No, not limiting television and limiting internet. I don't spend a lot of time on television. I haven't owned an operating television since I was 18.
Wow.
And moved to New York City. I didn't have the money for cable. I fell out of the television habit. I don't have one. I have a DVD player, and I have a computer for streaming stuff, but that's my selection. That's not like passive, like what's on television, 60 channels, scrolling, through the channels to find something. And I've been in a hotel room and done that, and I hate it, So I think the habit of dropping television from my life and getting most of my training either from books or personal teachers.
Is there any specific books you want to shout out that's helped?
Well, if you go to the Magic and Mystery School, we have a video of essential books there. However, for the person that doesn't have a lot of money and they want to get a great book, get the Mark Wilson course in magic.
For sure.
And you can get a used copy of that for, very little money. And you could get used copies of Tarbell, which have scripts and the effects, and you'd be surprised what's in there. I mean, it's staggering what's in there. And I'll also, Joshua Jay's book is very good. His magic book with the DVD in it. Yeah. So there's like a magic book for different generations. And, when I was growing up, it was the Mark Wilson course in magic. And now Joshua Jay has his book. And that's a very good book. Even if you're a pro, you keep on going back to these books again and again and again. And one of the great books of all time, but again, you can't, it does come up at auction and you can look at book sites and people can get it, is Greater Magic.
Or this one.
Or the Mystery School book, which is out of print and you can't get that. But yeah, I mean, you held up my book. This is a book for a serious intermediate. If you're a beginner, don't buy my book.
It could help.
I would rather you get Mark Wilson and get some experience performing a little bit, and then you get my book. My book is for intermediate and pros. I mean, I wrote this with pros in mind, from intermediate to pro.
All right. We're getting right to the end here.
We are.
So,
I've enjoyed this interview a lot. I wish you
Same.
a lot of success with this.
Thanks. Is there a trick that you don't see much of anymore that you think should be bigger?
Well, I have dropped the word trick from my lexicon. I always use effect or demonstration or routine. That's for me. And your question again is?
Is there a effect that you think should be more widely performed?
That's really a matter of taste. But I teach my favorite magic in my classes. Tomorrow and the next day, I teach all the time. I do these classes, and you can see the listings all the time. I dig out old gems out of books and bring them back from the old books. So there's not one. I'm a treasure hunter. I'm bringing them back all the time. If you think of one, the Panama rope trick by Ted Collins. It's a great, great piece of rope magic. It's a great routine, and you'll find it if you look around.
All right.
Oh, with that magic, that's the magic sound, and I must be off.
All right.
So I will bid you a fond farewell, but to a young magician that's out there, roll up your sleeves, read some old magic books, and keep the magic alive. I'm Jeff McBride, and it's been a pleasure to be interrogated by Travesty.
Thanks for joining. All right. Well, that was great. What an informative half hour. So, if you haven't already, check out Jeff McBride's Mystery School of Magic every single Monday. And anything he's involved with, any of his books, anything, everything he does is just great. Don't forget to check out the links down below. Appreciate him joining me. Also, if you enjoyed this show, check out my others and subscribe to keep updated with any new Illusionists coming up.
Follow the official Travesty at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email him at theofficialtravesty@gmail.com.
Like, comment, and subscribe, or else.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall endeavor to illustrate with the use of this ordinary deck of cards how futile are the efforts of the plebeians to break into the select circle of society which is known as the beau monde, and especially how such entree is prevented by the polite yet frigid exclusiveness of its gentler members.
Perfect.